Most people think the most intimate moment in a relationship is the act itself. They are wrong. The most honest, unmasked, and revealing moment happens in the 10 minutes after the lights go down and the adrenaline fades. When the performance ends, biology takes over, and biology cannot lie. Today, we are decoding the Afterglow Audit. I'm going to show you the 6 specific, involuntary behaviors that a man only displays when his heart is more invested than his ego. If you've ever wondered if you were just a stop on his journey or the actual destination, the proof isn't in what he does to get you into bed. It's in what he does before he leaves it. If a man does this right after sex, he loves you from the heart. We've all been there. That strange, sometimes cold silence that follows the most intense physical connection. For many women, that afterglow is the most vulnerable time in a relationship. It's the moment where you realize if you were just a destination on his map, or if you are the home he's been looking for. Most men are performers. They know how to say the right things and do the right things to get into the room. But today, we aren't talking about the performance. We are talking about the truth. Because the truth doesn't come out during the act, it comes out in the 10 minutes that follow. If a man does this one thing, he isn't just attracted to you, he loves you from the heart. He presides over your emotional safety. 1. He defies the biological exit. Biologically, men are wired for a dopamine crash after intimacy. The hunt is over, the chemicals subside, and the natural instinct is to sleep or disconnect. But a man who loves you has a higher intent. He overrides that biological urge to pull away. He stays present. He stays in the pocket with you. If he's still looking into your eyes, still holding the conversation, and still physically anchored to you, he's telling his biology that you are more important than his recovery. 2. The forehead anchor. There is a specific kind of touch that only happens when a man's heart is involved. It's not the touch that leads back to the bedroom, it's the non-sexual anchor. When a man kisses your forehead or pulls you into his chest without any expectation of round 2, he is signaling protective devotion. He is saying, I am the guardian of this space. He is treating your body not as a playground but as a sanctuary. 3. He practices emotional continuity. The biggest fear for a high-value woman is the transactional feel. The sense that once the physical peak is over, the value of the interaction drops. A man who loves you from the heart refuses to let that happen. He practices emotional continuity. He bridges the gap. He talks to you about your day, he asks about your dreams, or he simply shares a vulnerable truth about himself. He ensures that the soul-to-soul connection is just as intense as the body-to-body one. 4. The vulnerability audit. A man who loves you is a student of your nervous system. Right after sex, he is auditing your energy. He's checking, are you comfortable? Are you warm? Do you feel safe? He isn't asking these questions because he has to. He's asking because your state of being has become his responsibility. In that moment, he isn't a lover. Ill is your safe haven. 5. He stays for the unvarnished truth. Real intimacy is a truth serum. When the masks are off, the most profound things are said. A man who loves you treasures this pillow talk. He doesn't find your vulnerability heavy or too much. He finds it sacred. He stays to hear the things you only whisper in the dark. He realizes that the most intimate thing he can do isn't just knowing your body. It's never losing the hunger to know your mind. Sexual chemistry can get 2 people into a room, but only real love creates a sanctuary where you can actually be known. Don't settle for the man who is a star during the act but a ghost in the afterglow. Wait for the man who stays to preside over your peace. Stay sovereign, stay radiant, and I'll see you in the next one. The dopamine vs oxytocin divide is the biological battleground where casual attraction ends and deep, sovereign devotion begins. To understand why a man stays or why he pulls away, you must understand the neurochemical handshake that occurs during and after intimacy. Most relationships fail because they are built on the cheap fuel of dopamine, which is designed to burn out, rather than the deep gravity of oxytocin, which is designed to bond. When a man is merely visiting your life, he is a slave to the dopamine spike, but when he loves you from the heart, He has transitioned into the oxytocin architecture of a long-term protector. Dopamine is the molecule of more. It is the chemical of pursuit, craving, and the hunt. In the early stages of attraction, or in a purely physical encounter, the brain is flooded with dopamine. It feels like fireworks. It's loud, it's urgent, and it's incredibly addictive. However, dopamine has a refractory period. Once the goal is achieved, once the climax occurs, the dopamine levels don't just return to baseline, they crash below it. This is the biological reason for the cold shoulder, or the sudden urge a man feels to check his phone or leave the room. He isn't necessarily a bad guy. He is simply a man whose neurochemistry has just run out of fuel. He was hunting a high, and now that the high is over, he feels a low. Oxytocin, however, is the bonding hormone, or the cuddle chemical. While dopamine is about the anticipation of reward, oxytocin is about the security of connection. It is the chemical that lowers cortisol stress and creates a sense of profound safety and at-homeness. In a high-value relationship, the physical act isn't just a dopamine release, it is an oxytocin trigger. When a man loves you, his brain isn't just looking for the hit, it is looking for the anchor. For him, the intimacy doesn't end at the climax. It actually deepens in the afterglow because oxytocin and its masculine counterpart, vasopressin, begin to surge. Vasopressin is the monogamy molecule for men. It is what transforms a player into a provider. When a man is in a state of deep devotion, the intimacy triggers a sense of territorial protection. He doesn't want to leave. He wants to stay and guard the woman who has just shared her vulnerability with him. This is the altruistic shift. He moves from what can we get to how can I protect this? Vasopressing oxytocin. Getty images the divide becomes apparent in the 10-minute window after sex. A dopamine-driven man will feel an energy void and will seek to fill it with external stimulation, a food, phone, or sleep. An oxytocin-driven man will feel an emotional fullness and will seek to deepen the gaze, the touch, and the conversation. He understands that for a woman, the oxytocin surge is what makes her feel safe after being exposed. By staying present, he is funding the emotional bank account of the relationship. Ultimately, the dopamine versus oxytocin divide proves that chemistry is common, but connection is a choice. When you hold high standards and refuse to settle for cheap dopamine, you force a man to engage his higher brain centers. You wait for the man whose biology doesn't just crave your body, but whose soul is literally re-wired to cherish your presence long after the fireworks have faded. The protective linger is the ultimate high-value marker of a man who has moved beyond the physical act and into the realm of spiritual and emotional devotion. In the world of casual dating, there is a phenomenon known as the post-coital retreat. It is that awkward, almost palpable energy where a man suddenly becomes preoccupied with the external world, his phone, the time, or the exit. But when a man loves you from the heart, he performs the sovereign stay. He doesn't just remain in the bed, he remains in the moment. He understands that the 10 minutes following intimacy are not a cool-down period, but a sealing period. He is lingering because your presence has become his primary oxygen. This behavior is rooted in the vasopressin surge. While dopamine is the fuel of the pursuit, vasopressin is the glue of the partnership. In a man who is truly committed, the vulnerability of the moment triggers a protective instinct. He isn't just resting, he is presiding. He stays physically anchored to you, perhaps with a hand on your heart or your hair, because his nervous system is telling him that his job isn't done just because the act is over. He is providing a safe haven for your emotional landing. He realizes that for a woman, the window of vulnerability is widest in the afterglow, and he refuses to let you feel disposable or unseen during that transition. The protective linger is also a form of attentional wealth. We live in a world of constant distraction, and a man's most valuable currency is his undivided focus. When he ignores the ping of a notification or the urge to get up and start his day, he is making a sovereign sacrifice. He is telling you that the internal world you have created together is more important than the external world waiting outside the door. He is drinking in the details of the moment, the The way your breathing synchronizes with his, the specific scent of your skin, the quiet honesty in your eyes. He is downloading the reality of you so that he can carry it with him throughout the day. Furthermore, this lingering acts as a relational audit. He is subconsciously checking your thermal state. He wants to know, are you warm? Do you feel cherished? Is there any lingering anxiety in your frame? He uses his physical proximity to soothe your nervous system. By staying, he is effectively saying, I am not a consumer of your energy. I am a contributor to your peace. This is the hallmark of a protector energy. A performer wants to be thanked for his service. A protector wants to ensure your sanctuary remains undisturbed. Ultimately, the protective linger proves that real love is found in the stillness, not just the storm. Anyone can be present during the intensity of the pursuit, but only a man of character has the grit to stay for the silence. He isn't rushing to the next thing because, for him, you are the next thing. When you find a man who lingers, who treats the afterglow with the same reverence as the act itself, you have found a man who doesn't just want your body. He wants to be the permanent guardian of your heart. The vulnerability bridge is the psychological infrastructure that a man builds to ensure a woman never feels the emotional drop that often follows physical intimacy. In the world of high-stakes dating, intimacy is like a high-altitude flight. The ascent is thrilling, the view is spectacular, but the most dangerous part is the landing. When the physical act concludes, a woman's nervous system is often at its most exposed. She has opened her boundaries, shared her space, and released a flood of bonding hormones. If a man immediately pulls away, he creates a vulnerability gap, a cold, empty space where insecurity and doubt grow. But when a man loves you from the heart, he creates a vulnerability bridge. He uses his presence, his words, and his touch to carry you safely from the high of the act back to the solid ground of emotional security. This bridge is rooted in the ventral vagal state of the nervous system. When we are intimate, we move into a state of high arousal. For that arousal to feel sacred, rather than stressful, it must be followed by a period of intentional co-regulation. A man who is truly invested in you understands, perhaps only subconsciously, that his job isn't finished at the peak. He becomes the guardian of the landing. He stays physically close, he maintains eye contact, and he uses a low-frequency vocal tonality to signal to your brain that the hunt is over and the sanctuary has begun. He is bridging the physical intensity with emotional tenderness so that you don't feel oozed or disposable. The vulnerability bridge is built with non-utility communication. In casual dynamics, conversation after the act is often functional or awkward, but a man who loves you uses this time for pillow talk, the unvarnished, high-voltage honesty that only happens when the masks are off. He might share a fear, a dream, or a simple observation about how much he values your presence. He isn't performing a script. He is opening a vein of emotional honesty. By being vulnerable himself, he makes it safe for you to stay vulnerable. He is telling you, I saw you at your most exposed, and I am still here, holding the door open for your soul. Furthermore, this bridge acts as a relational seal. It is the difference between a transaction and a transformation. A man who rushes to the shower or his phone is breaking the circuit. A man who builds the bridge is completing the circuit. He realizes that the price of entry to your body is the total protection of your heart. He treats the afterglow with more reverence than the act itself, because he knows that this is where the pair bonding actually happens. He is investing in the emotional safety of the container so that the fire of your attraction can burn for a lifetime without burning out the structure. Ultimately, the vulnerability bridge proves that masculinity is at its peak when it is protective. A man's strength isn't just in his ability to pursue, it's in his ability to hold the space after the pursuit is over. He realizes that the most alpha thing he can do is ensure that the woman he loves feels more high value after the act than she did before it began. When you find a man who builds this bridge, who refuses to let you land alone, you have found a man who doesn't just want a moment with you, he wants a life with you. The non-utility touch is the silent language of a man who has moved beyond the transactional phase of attraction and into the devotional phase of a soul-level connection. In the world of casual dating, touch is almost always utility-driven. It is a means to an end, a lead-up to a physical objective, or a tool used to trigger a specific sexual response. But when a man loves you from the heart, his touch undergoes a radical transformation. It becomes non-goal oriented. He begins to touch you in ways that have zero sexual utility, simply because his nervous system is feeding on your presence. This is the hallmark of a man who views you as a sanctuary, not just a destination. This shift is rooted in the parasympathetic nervous system and the C-tactile afferent fibers. These are specific nerve fibers in the skin that respond only to slow, gentle, non-aggressive stroking. While high-intensity touch triggers the sympathetic cephalorosal system, the non-utility touch triggers the parasympathetic Zevan-Kalman bond system. When a man strokes your hair, traces the outline of your hand, or gives you a lingering forehead kiss right after intimacy, he is signaling to both of your brains that the hunt is over and the pair bonding has begun. He isn't trying to get anywhere, he is simply being with you. He is anchoring his soul to yours through the most primitive and honest medium we have, the skin. The non-utility touch is a form of altruistic presence. It is the ultimate, high-value tell because it requires a man to move out of his own ego and into your emotional experience. He realizes that for a woman, a non-demanding touch is the ultimate proof of safety. It tells her, I value you even when I am not using you. It separates the performer from the protector. A performer stops touching the moment the goal is reached because his utility has been satisfied. A protector continues to touch because his investment is in your state of being, not just his own satisfaction. He is investing in the emotional bank account of the relationship. Furthermore, this touch acts as a relational seal. It is what people often call affection, but in a high-voltage relationship, it is actually psychological nourishment. By touching you without an agenda, he is proving that he is at home in your presence. He isn't rushing to the next thing because there is no next thing. Being close to you is the end state. He is drinking in the reality of your connection. Whether it's a hand resting on your cheek or a subtle squeeze of your shoulder in the afterglow, he is telling you, without saying a word, that you are the most high-value asset in his world. Ultimately, the non-utility touch proves that real love is found in the quiet moments, not just the loud ones. Anyone can be passionate during the pursuit, but only a man of character has the sovereignty to be tender in the aftermath. He realizes that the most intimate thing he can do isn't just knowing your body, it's proving that he cherishes the human being inhabiting it. When you find a man who touches you simply to remind you that he is there, who treats the afterglow with more reverence than the act itself, you have found a man who doesn't just want a moment with you, he wants a lifetime. The Afterglow Audit is the ultimate psychological litmus test for masculine devotion. It is the 10 to 30-minute window following physical intimacy where the social masks, the performance, and the biological hunt have all concluded. In the world of casual dating, this period is often characterized by a cold withdrawal. A man gets what he needs and his brain immediately seeks an exit, whether that's through sleep, his phone, or physical distance. But when a man loves you from the heart, he performs a sovereign audit. He doesn't just stay in the room, he stays in the moment. He understands that for a high-value woman, the price of entry to her body is the total protection of her emotional state, and the audit is where he proves he is worthy of that trust. This behavior is rooted in the transition from the sympathetic nervous system, a fight or flight arousal, to the parasympathetic nervous system, a rest and digest bonding. During the pursuit, a man is driven by adrenaline and dopamine. But once the act is over, those chemicals crash. A man who is merely visiting your life will feel an energy void and will try to fill it with external distractions. However, a man who is invested experiences a surge of oxytocin and vasopressin. These chemicals don't drive him away, they anchor him to you. The Afterglow Audit is his involuntary process of ensuring that the connection he just experienced wasn't just physical but relational. During the audit, a man becomes a student of your nuance. He is subconsciously checking your thermal state. He is looking for emotional leaks. Is there a trace of anxiety in your eyes? Is your breathing shallow or deep? Does your body feel relaxed in his arms, or are you bracing for his departure? He isn't asking these questions because he has to. He is asking them because your state of being has become his North Star. He realizes that the vulnerability window is widest after the act, and he refuses to let you land alone. By staying present, he is funding the emotional bank account of the relationship, ensuring that you feel more sane after the act than you did before it began. The Afterglow audit also involves non-utility communication. This is the pillow talk, where the most profound truths are shared. Because the biological guard is down, he is more likely to share a fear, a dream, or a simple, raw observation about his feelings for you. He isn't all performing a script, he is opening a vein of honesty. He treasures this time because he knows it is the only time he gets to see the unvarnished version of you. He is downloading the reality of your soul so that he can carry it with him long after he leaves the room. Ultimately, the Afterglow audit proves that intimacy is a sailing process, not just a peak process. Anyone can be a star during the intensity of the pursuit, but only a man of character has the grit to stay for the stillness. He realizes that the most alpha thing he can do is ensure that his presence acts as a safe haven for your heart. When you find a man who audits your peace, who refuses to let the silence become cold, you have found a man who doesn't just want a moment with you. He wants to be the permanent guardian of your sanctuary. The unvarnished conversation is the psychological black box of a relationship, the raw, unfiltered data that is only recorded when the social flight is over and the plane has safely landed. In the world of high-level dating, we spend a lot of time on curated communication. We wear our best clothes, we use our best manners, and we present a sovereign version of ourselves that is designed to be attractive. But real love cannot survive on a diet of curation alone. It requires a moment where the masks are dropped, the ego is sidelined, and the unvarnished truth is allowed to breathe. This usually happens in the 10-minute window right after intimacy, during the afterglow, when the brain's defensive barriers are temporarily offline. This phenomenon is rooted in the prefrontal cortex relaxation and oxytocin surge. During the day, our prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for social filtering, planning, and keeping up appearances, is working overtime. But in the aftermath of deep physical and emotional connection, this internal sensor relaxes. The surge of oxytocin, the bonding hormone, and the drop in cortisols, the stress hormone, create a neurological truth serum. A man who loves you from the heart doesn't just rest during this time, he uses it to reach for your soul. He begins to speak in a way that is unvarnished, meaning it has no hidden agenda, no game, and no performance. The unvarnished conversation is characterized by high voltage vulnerability. A man might share a childhood memory he hasn't thought of in years, a fear about his career that he never tells his bros, or a simple, profound observation about how your presence makes him feel at home. He isn't trying to impress you anymore, he is trying to be known by you. He realizes that the most intimate thing he can do isn't just knowing your body, it's inviting you into the secret rooms of his mind. He is opening a vein of honesty because he trusts that you are the only person who can handle the weight of his reality. Furthermore, this conversation acts as a relational anchor. It is what separates a passing fancy from a permanent partnership. A man who is just visiting will keep the conversation light, functional, or focused on the next thing of food, sleep, or leaving. But a man who is invested treasures the silence and the subtext. He wants to hear your unvarnished thoughts too. He asks the deep questions because he is downloading the map of your internal world. He is building a sovereign sanctuary where the two of you can be completely honest without the fear of judgment. Ultimately, the unvarnished conversation proves that truth is the ultimate aphrodisiac. Anyone can be charming when the lights are bright and the music is loud, but only a man of character has the grit to be real when the lights are low and the room is quiet. He realizes that the price of entry to your heart is his own total transparency. When you find a man who stays to talk, not because he has to, but because he finally feels safe enough to be himself. You have found a man who doesn't just want a moment with you, he wants a lifetime of being unvarnished by your side. A man's desire can be a flickering flame, but his devotion is a steady anchor. When you hold yourself as a sovereign woman, you stop settling for men who are stars during the pursuit, but ghosts in the afterglow. You deserve the man who builds a vulnerability bridge, who lingers because your presence is his sanctuary, and who treats your peace as his primary responsibility. Don't just look for a lover, look for a protector of your sanctuary. Stay radiant, keep your standards in the stratosphere, and I'll see you in the next one.